He had a million of them. One of the really good ones that sticks out in my mind from when I was a kid, we would always be working on fences, and Papa would go so slow. I'd say, "Come on, Pop, come on, I got places to be. I need to go to town, chase girls." And he'd say, "Slow down, son, we in a hurry." And it didn't make any sense to me at the time. But now I know exactly what he meant, because I'd mess up more than I fixed. And now I go slow and steady, and I get a lot more work done. Being raised on a farm, death is as much a part of farming as life is. And it's more a part of living, I think, than life is sometimes, because tragedy abounds. But one of the first things that I remember is my dad was an alcoholic, like I said. And so growing up, we saw some really hard and troubling times. And, later on in life, my dad and I had a great relationship, and we worked together for 15 years on the farm. But as kids, we saw a lot of what alcohol can do to a family. Mama would take us to church, and Daddy would keep the devil off our back by taking up his time. So it was, he never went to church with us. So that childhood, it was really tough. But what it did give me is the knowledge of what kind of man I wanted to be. Now, I wasn't able to be that man opposite of Christ, but I knew the man I wanted to be. I just didn't accept the fact that I needed Christ to be that man early on. One of the memories that always comes to mind about farming and kind of how deep those roots are for me is I had an uncle that was a pilot in the Air Force, and when he retired, he bought the Elberton Airport and ran it for a while. And he had a plane crash in Virginia and got killed. And he was the baby of the family, and he didn't farm, and he kind of went his own way. But my grandma and grandpa were really proud of him. I mean, he was a military guy, and when the news came in that he got killed, Pop didn't say anything. He was this big, strong, tough guy, and wore a big cowboy hat. But he didn't say anything to me. He just walked out the door, and I followed him, and we went to the chicken houses, and we walked the chickens. And we cried in there, and we prayed in there, and we came back out. And so every time in my life when there's been a tragedy like that, you just get up and go back to the chicken houses, or you get up and go feed your cows, and you just keep moving on. And you learn. I think farming helps you to learn that, how to just keep moving forward, because it's not going to stop. Just because somebody passed away, you still got to feed your cows and chickens and horses. Then, of course, so Daddy and Papa and I, we worked cows together and did chickens together until Papa died, and then Daddy and I did it. And then in 2011, Daddy was diagnosed with cancer, and he lived for 8 months. And we had 8 chicken houses, about 100 head of mama cows, and I was actually trying to make ends meet by building some boat docks. And so I was working 20 hours a day. I mean, I just wouldn't even see it in my family. And when he passed away, it became painfully obvious that I couldn't keep that pace up anymore. I couldn't do that by myself. My kids were too small, and I didn't have the help that we had always had. So that really prompted me to back up and kind of take stock of where I was and where I want to be. And with the sheer amount of debt that we were carrying, it was on my mind constantly. If I roll one of these tractors over, what's my wife and kids going to do? They're not going to do it. I can't keep this going. They're not going to keep it going. So that was one of the big turning points when Daddy died, that it kind of led me to try to get out of debt and start following God more. I think the American farmer gets trotted on because they're so resilient. If Trump tweets something and makes China mad and soybeans go through the floor, the farmer will tighten his belt up and he'll make it another year. So I think the American people don't concern themselves about the farmer so much because they've just always been here. And they're gonna stay because it's such a deep-rooted legacy or a heritage or a drive within them to serve people by producing food. I think if something like that happened and the farmers were like other businesses where they said, "Hey, I'll just quit this and go get a different job," we'd be losing farms so fast we would be more concerned with it. And that is a concern to me for the next generation, is if they're going to have that drive, that desire. If there's going to be enough benefit for them to even continue doing this is a scary thought to me. to think that we got to get all of our food from China. Is it going to be safe? It's definitely not going to be as inexpensive. We can't all be consumers. Somebody's got to be a producer, and farmers, that's what they do. I can do without a lot of things, but I can't do without food. And of course, I'm a fat man trapped in a skinny man's body anyway because I eat nonstop. But you got to have that food, and the farmer really is the backbone to me of this country. I mean, at its very core, the first people that came on this earth were farmers. They had to grow it to eat it. So now we actually repair and install poultry house equipment and use chicken houses to try to help the farmers, because there's so many people in this business that are out just to try to get money out of them because it's perceived that they make a lot of money in the chicken business, so they take advantage of them. So I almost feel like our job is to kind of protect them a little bit from that and give them a good job and a fair job. And since I've fed my family out of chicken houses for so long, I kind of know what works and don't work. We also now have branched out and partnered up with Coastal Solar to add solar power to the chicken houses. One of the ways that I really felt like I needed to find a way to help growers years ago was there was 3 things that I just couldn't do anything about, and one of those was the power bill, one of them was the gas bill, and the other one, as much as we try, is taxes. You're going to pay taxes. You can try to outspend them, but you can't do it. So, and I can't help with the gas problem yet, but we have found a solution to help with the power. Solar, it just works. The sun comes up, it starts working, the sun goes down. As we say, you don't have to put air in the tires, you don't have to put diesel in it, it just works. If I could share one nugget of wisdom to the young people thinking about getting into farming, it would be Colossians 3:23. Do everything you do as if you're doing it for the Lord Himself and not for human masters. If you do that, you will always do a good job, and someday you'll be able to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant."